Peter Saputo, welcome to Mint. Long time coming. How you doing? Thanks for being on.
Dude, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you. I'm a collector of yours. I really enjoy your music, and I remember towards the end of season 6, we were just kicking it. I think at one of like the LA creator houses in crypto. I forgot which one. You're like, bro, we should run an episode. I have this project coming up, and you sold me on this idea, and really got to tap into the way you think. And I was like, wow, this kid really gets it. This kid,
That's so funny.
not a kid. And I was like, all right, this is cool. We should run it. So I'm excited to have you on, Peter. Peter,
Dude.
30 seconds. Who are you, man? Give us a quick intro.
Yo, I'm Peter. Make music, produce out of my studio at home in Los Angeles, and just been making music for as long as I can remember, and recently got into like Web3 over the last year. And honestly, just living life, trying to make music and have fun. So
Let's go. Living life in Web3. How'd you get into Web3? What is that story?
Dude, so I got into crypto. I started investing in crypto kind of beginning of quarantine, and kind of didn't experiment with any NFTs or anything. Did not have the energy to like pay attention to any of that stuff that was going on. And I just randomly had a friend come over kind of once we could socialize again. And he was actually hyping me up on Daniel Allen's overstimulated project. And he's like, dude, like, I don't know if you've heard of like music NFTs or DAOs or anything, but like you should really like, you know, get into this stuff. Like this could be a way that you could kind of fund your life essentially, and your music and whatever. And I was very skeptical, to be completely honest. I was like, it seems too good to be true and whatnot. But literally here we are. We made it through. So it's kind of wild. But yeah, I honestly hit up like a manager and asked him what he thought of like music NFTs. And he pretty much gave me like the green light. He's like, dude, just like dive into it. Like you won't regret it. And that kind of gave me to get to where we are right now.
What was your first step after you hit him up? What did you do next?
It was really, really quick. I discovered Good Karma like right after I kind of started diving into the space. And Good Karma Records, run by Grady, who I actually listened to Grady's music for a minute before ever like getting into music NFTs, and loved his music. So when I saw that he was like diving into this, I was like, oh, that's sick. I at the time lived in Hollywood, like across the street from the Fonda Theater, and he happened to be playing at the Fonda Theater literally the next day. And the next day after like the Good Karma, like the initial like crowdfund that they did. And I just freaking walked over to the venue, bought a ticket, and I was like, I'm going to meet Grady and I'm going to talk to him about Good Karma. Ended up meeting Cooper Troopa
Cool.
That night, which was sick, and met Grady later on. We had some mutuals, and yeah, just hit it off. Turns out Good Karma had the first ever like LA in-person meetup the very next day. So I just, naturally just showed up and yeah, just kind of got really connected within Good Karma, which was sick. Yeah.
I would argue that something that's special about you, Peter, is when people try to think like, how do I get into the space? They don't know where to start. And your default sort of step was to go find people that know more than you do.
Yeah.
Go ask them questions, go shake their hand, go try to break into some type of circle and figure it out. It's very entrepreneurial-esque to an extent. No, it is. And like, you're laughing because probably you don't think about it like that, right? But like compared to all the people that I have on the podcast, right, and listening to their story and how they got started, it's very much, okay, I don't get something, I want to figure it out. I'm going to go find people that understand it and break my way into the circle, right?
Yep.
Why do you think that's like your default sort of reaction compared to other people where they're just like sitting at their computer, like they don't know what to do. They're trying to read blogs or on crypto Twitter. They don't know what communities to join. But you're like, I'm just going to like, I'm going to break into it somehow.
Yeah. I think honestly, just being in LA made it very easy. I think if I lived somewhere else, it would have been a little bit harder to get into the space. But I think that I don't know. I just had a very few people that I really trusted that, like I said, gave me that push to get into it. And I was like, you know what? Like, I don't know what I'm doing because like ever since COVID, it was like, okay, like releasing music felt weird. You couldn't really go on tour. I mean, you couldn't. So it was like, kind of what can you do as an artist other than just like make music? And at the end of the day, it can't only be making music, as much as some of us would like love for that to be the case. But it was honestly, I think the reason why I just kind of went out and just like went for it was I didn't really have anything better to do, honestly. You know, if that makes sense. Yeah, just I was like, might as well just try it out.
Might as well. Might as well. Okay, so you meet Grady, you meet Good Karma.
Yep.
Do you immediately perform at a showcase, or what happened next?
So I think crazy because literally I think a few weeks late after I met Grady and Cooper, Miami Art Basel was happening, and I literally just bought a flight and went in and popped in, and I was like, let's see what's happening, and it just really dove into it there, and ended up meeting like Blockchain Brett, which was incredible. Love that guy. A few other like amazing like people who like are my friends now, and I think that like through kind of all that, then Grady, when they were doing a showcase, he had asked me to play, and I was like, absolutely. So yeah, it was kind of like I definitely put in like a lot of work. It wasn't like this immediate like, oh, you popped in, come, you know, play a showcase. I think Grady probably hadn't even like listened to any of my music after we met a few times and like whatever, but it definitely took like a minute of just like being involved in the space before like, you know, I got a text to play.
Right. Fast forward, how long? A year? Have you been in it for a year now?
Dude, it's been over a year, which is
okay.
insane.
Fast forward a year. What were some of those initial misconceptions that you've had getting into the space that have now become so like obvious and cleared up that it's a no-brainer?
Dude, the biggest one is how like much I was overthinking how to drop a music NFT. Like how much I was like thinking like to do this whole strategic like thing and like whatever.
Oh,
and
interesting.
I had, like Google Docs of like all these things that I wanted to do and how I was going to present them and like whatever. And now I'm at the point of like, dude, like I have a song coming out in a month that I'm going to drop on Sound. And I right now don't know if I'm doing an open edition or if I'm doing capped editions or like, I have no idea what I'm doing with it yet. And I'm just kind of like winging it. And it's sick now because I have enough of a collector base that I can just kind of send a text and be like, yo, what do you guys want me to do? And they'll kind of be like, oh, do this. And there's a lot less like thinking. So I think it's more like do than think. And that's
what a weird concept to say out loud. I have now a collector base. Like I'll just text them.
Yeah, it is weird.
And they'll give me what? Like if you tell it to anybody outside of the circle, they're like, what did you just say?
They're like, what are you talking about? It's like, oh, your team is like 100 people in a chat. It's like, kind of like, it's crazy.
How wild is that? Like put that into perspective of all these other artists that are just trying to keep up to date with the Spotify algorithm. And not to say that you aren't as well trying to get distribution for your music, but you now have this community, this fan club, whatever you want to call them, whatever you call the Saputos in the group chat, you know. I think it's pretty marvelous, to be honest. And I think having that level of community that you can directly DM, send them a track, hit them up for ideas, drop a link for a drop a link for a new drop that you have rolling out, and get the whole community hyped about it is something super unique and super special. And I feel like, well, definitely not many people have that.
Yeah, no, definitely not. It's so cool being part of something so like niche or like it just feels good, honestly, to have community like that, because I think that, I mean, like not many people have a chat where they can hit up their like top fans.
So talk about that. So when you have a chat, for those who don't understand what that means, okay, because a lot of people who listen to Mint, they're either already like Web3 native or getting into the space using the podcast as a guide to navigate them. So I want to break this down because you're very relatable. You're in the space for almost a little bit over a year and you figured it out. Like you've made it on Sound. You have your group chat. You're selling out drops. Paint out the sort of like roadmap, right? The steps. What does that mean to have a group chat? How the hell do you funnel people into a group chat? How do you even get somebody to collect your stuff to begin with and then bring them into the group? You know what I mean? Like lay it out for me.
I mean, definitely like it took time, and that's the biggest thing. It's not like an overnight thing. It's not just over a couple weeks. It's like, I mean, I spent so much time networking in the space before I had sold anything, before I got onto any platforms. And it was honestly at the point of like, I had been around for so long and people were questioning like, why isn't Peter on, you know, XYZ, why isn't he on all these platforms? Like whatever. And it's just like, it kind of showed how much, you know, work needs to be, put in. And it's not even necessarily like work. It's just making friends, honestly, at this point. I kind of just, I mean, I showed up everywhere and started meeting people. And by the time I dropped anything, I already had fans that wanted to be collectors. And once they were, you know, collectors of mine, I just went, hey, I'm making a Telegram. I started out with like a Discord, which I honestly barely invited people to. It was mostly like my Web2 fan base in Discord.
Okay.
But yeah, I just started inviting people to a Telegram chat, and I was like, yo, we can hang out here. You know, you guys will get info on whatever first. And yeah, I don't know. It's a good hang. The GMs every day.
The GMs every day. But how did you get your fans before dropping a piece? That's the golden question.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's getting fans before dropping anything is the work. And it is just showing up. Like I legitimately showed up any possible place that I could. I was buying tickets, putting them onto my credit card, being like, I'm probably never going to see money. Or I'm never going to get this money back. Like I'm literally like just winging this and, just showing up. Like we met at, where did we meet? We met in Denver, East Denver.
I think so. Yeah.
And, yeah, we just pulled up and, networked there. It was just like meeting all these collectors. And, yeah, I pretty much every event in the States I pretty much pulled up to, which was
wild.
It was sick, but it was definitely like in person talking to these people. And, not everybody necessarily has like the luxury of like being able to do that, or not even the luxury, but like the low-key, like the balls to just put everything on a credit card and be like, YOLO. Like, I don't know, like it was honestly a stupid decision, but like it worked out. So not stupid, but, yeah, I mean, I just think it's just a matter of networking with people, and you can do that online and by being in Discords or hanging out, on Twitter Spaces and stuff like that. And like, you know, I was doing all those things too. So it's kind of, I just put myself everywhere I possibly could be, to the point where you kind of couldn't miss me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
And I mean, that's how I was able to, you know, when I did my first like sound drop, it was gone instantly, which was mind blowing. But it kind of made sense why that happened, because I knew, and everybody knew, how much time I've spent in this space. So yeah.
Do you feel like you're better in person or online when it comes to meeting new friends?
Oh, definitely better in person. Definitely. Okay. Better in person. Yeah, definitely.
How do you translate like your charisma in person to interacting with people online?
I honestly, it's interesting. Like the way that I text people is the way that I just speak it. So like my messages are like, I'll send like 4 or 5 messages, just the way that I would like talk.
Right.
And, I feel like in a sense, it's almost the same, but it's definitely easier to like, I mean, you're having conversations in person, whereas like online, it's like, you're not necessarily going to have a conversation with, you know, Adam Levy, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like I can't, you know, if I see you at an event, it's like, yo, what's up? You know, we can have a chat, like whatever. It's a lot easier than just trying to get through your DMs or something to that effect.
Right. Yeah. Right. Another cool thing, Peter, that makes this conversation super unique is, like you said, you've been in the space for a little over a year now. You've seen music NFTs in its like naked original form, and you've seen it, and you see it today. Walk me through sort of how you understand the evolution within that period, because a year in crypto is like 10 years elsewhere. Everything moves so fast.
Yeah.
Anything stands out to you throughout that period that you've been involved to date, that you've sort of learned from, that you can reflect on, anything of that nature?
Man, I feel like when I first was kind of getting into the space, it was, I mean, sound didn't exist yet. And it definitely went from just like one of ones and like a mirror crowdfund, to what it is now. And I when I was initially getting into like music NFTs, I didn't necessarily think of like doing editions or anything. It was kind of just like, oh, one of ones, like, you know, having like a super fan, like your, you know, top fan wanting to collect your one of one song or whatever. And, which is still sick. I still love one of ones. But I think fast forward to like now with doing, like editions and being able to do like giving your music NFTs away for free and like stuff like that, it's definitely grown the space a lot. And I've definitely at a point now where like I prefer editions. And like, because I think I like people being included. I want to include as many people as possible. It shouldn't be necessarily this thing that like only a few, because if I, for example, I dropped 9 songs in 2022. If I had only done one of ones, I would have had maybe 9 collectors, you know, whereas now I have almost 300. That's like, that feels like way, way better. And that feels way more like community, which I'm loving.
So how do you find the balance between dropping the one of ones and getting that single collector versus dropping editions, like capped editions, and building community through volume?
I think that at this point, the way that I'm kind of thinking about it is kind of songs that are on my back catalog that like I've dropped a while ago, I think make a little bit more sense to exist as one of ones. And like I only have ever dropped 2 one of ones on catalog. I've done a couple on like Zora, but I've definitely just done way more editions, and typically those are just like newer songs. And I think it makes a little more sense to, you know, if I'm dropping a song on, you know, Friday, then I'll just do a sound drop the day before and try to get people to listen to it. And then boom, song comes out, instant traffic to that song on Spotify. It converts a little more. But what I love about one of ones with my back catalog is like, kind of when you drop a song, a year goes by and it's like, okay, this song doesn't necessarily have much hype around it. You can kind of build new hype on old music, which I love. So yeah.
Another question I have for you is, artists struggle with deciding which platforms to launch on. Should they launch on Decent? Should they launch on Zora? Should they launch on Sound, on Catalog? When do you launch on Sound? When do you launch on Zora? How do you understand that whole dynamic, and what does your decision-making process look like?
I will honestly say, I don't think it matters where you start. It just matters that you start. I started out on Zora because I wasn't on Catalog. Again, Sound didn't exist yet. And I just wanted to have my music on the blockchain. And I just I minted a song and it went months without selling. Nobody, like I tweeted about it like once or twice. I wasn't trying to be like super aggressive with it because I was like, you know, I gotta meet some people first. And I kind of like learn more to, you know, really understand what I'm getting into. But yeah, I mean, like starting on Zora was not a bad decision. I think that even when Sound, you know, when Sound launched, I wasn't on Sound till April, and Sound launched in December, I think. And so when I did get on, I kind of already had like a lot of time just like waiting, like what do I do next kind of a thing. Cause it's like, I'm still on Catalog. And when I got on Sound in April, you couldn't just like do another drop. And Zora had allowed or made it, I don't know what the term necessarily would be, but basically they made it so you could do editions on Zora. Right. And I saw that as like, okay, like, you know, Zora probably doesn't have like a built-in collector base for music NFTs, but you can do editions. So I'm just going to experiment with that. And I just did a couple of drops there, and they were all pretty successful. And it was just a matter of like doing, like, I didn't want to wait around.
Right.
I didn't feel like I needed to necessarily wait around. But it definitely like, just, I don't know, at the end of the day, as long as you start somewhere and are minting stuff, that's like really all that matters. Obviously, make sure you can represent the space well enough before you mint anything. But yeah, I mean, just like starting anywhere. Like, I think that if you want to do a drop on Decent, go for it. If you want to start on Sound, if you can start on Sound, you know, like definitely go for it, but it doesn't necessarily matter. It's even if you're dropping on Sound now, it's like, you're not going to get an instant sellout. You've still got to put in some work. So whether it's on Zora or Sound, like, does it really matter? So I don't know.
That makes sense.
You just gotta do it.
That makes a lot of sense. Another question I have for you, it goes back to kind of reflecting on the year, your year in music NFTs. I remember about a year ago, even like halfway into that year, like one-of-ones were very hot and a lot of artists were kind of pushing towards them. And it feels as if like one-of-ones, they still have like their dominance. They still have their like raw uniqueness, but it seems as if artists have sort of shifted towards doing additions over one-of-ones. Is there any particular reason? Are you feeling the same thing, or am I just in my own head on my own Twitter timeline?
Low key, I think it's just a hype based thing. Like, there's really just more hype around editions right now.
Okay.
And I think, I mean, there's people that are, you know, trying to like flip these music NFTs and like whatever. You're not really flipping one-of-ones very easily. And so I think it's just like a hype based thing. And I think also starting out, it makes way more sense to just do editions because you can get more people. Whether it's free or paid, it doesn't matter. Like, you'll get more people in by doing editions. So it kind of just like makes sense, but I still think that one-of-one should exist in the sense of like, you know, if you have one song that you really, you know, absolutely adore, a one-of-one maybe makes more sense for that. And for it to be in one person's wallet, rather than like a ton of people that maybe you know, maybe you don't know.
Do you feel like your relationship is different with those who collect your one-of-ones versus those who collect your editions? What is that like?
Definitely. I think the people who've collected my one-of-ones have been essentially my like day ones. And those people I've just like known longer, and built more of a relationship with. And if anything now, even since, you know, those one-on-one sales, it's like I become closer to those people. And there's definitely a little bit more like value in them. I mean, like inherently is more like value in them, but I don't know. I think with editions, I try my absolute hardest to track every single wallet down, get them in my Telegram, have a conversation with them, and I really try to. But it's definitely way harder to keep track, and so therefore, like it's way easier to pay more attention to those people who've collected my one-of-ones.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, I want to talk about the future of Peter Saputo. Okay, you've been active in the group chat. I always view the group chat. I'm always in there watching what you're doing. You have the balance between doing paid editions, dropping random free editions. I'm curious, what's next? Like, what do you have coming up? You have a song coming out next month, you told us. But what does 2023 look like for you?
2023, just as 2022, is me just figuring things out. I think that as much as it's amazing to have like set out plans, I hate being put in like a box or like essentially like boxing myself in. So, I mean, I have so many songs that I'm planning to drop this year. All of them will be tokenized. And yeah, that's the plan. The plan is just to drop as much music as I possibly can, and to allow people to collect it. I think there's not necessarily anything like super big that I have like currently planned out. I think it's just a matter of like still just growing my collector base, as it kind of was the last half of 2022, where I was like, you know what, like, sure, it would be amazing to like price my music NFTs like higher, but it feels a lot better to price them lower and get more people in, and, you know, just make new friends and just kind of just vibe out. And I think that I'm kind of carrying that energy into this year, and just figuring things out as I go. Like, I definitely don't want to box myself in and stress myself out. It's just kind of like trying to, you know, work my way through Web2, TikTok and everything, and still like having sessions every day. And like, just making the best music of my life and just like doing the thing. But I think that I can't like, I don't want to put too much emphasis on like a plan. Yeah, we're just kind of winging this year and just like going for it. Like, let's just,
I'm here for it.
Do. So
part of winging it means that you're focusing more, I guess, focusing your time both on Web 2 and Web 3. I follow you on TikTok as well. Your content's very unique. And I'm curious if any of your Web 2 followers have ever approached you and asked you questions about NFTs, crypto, everything that you're doing in that world. And if they have, what do you tell them?
Dude, yeah. I mean, my Discord, I initially started out to make like a Web3 like Discord, and I ended up being like, you know what, like how sick would it be to onboard like people from my DMs into Discord? And you know, I spent like a while trying to like really get people in there, and didn't talk about music NFTs, didn't do anything. Occasionally I would add a few people that have like collected stuff into my Discord, and we would just kind of, you know, just get more people in there. And I just started announcing like, oh, hey, I'm doing an NFT drop, you know, like you can mint it here on this date, whatever. And I had a few people that were actually like curious, and I actually airdropped a couple music NFTs of like random Web2 fans that were in my Discord that like created wallets, which was sick. Which I think
that's pretty cool.
I did. It was super cool. I was like, what is happening right now? Like, let's go. And it definitely like at that point it became a goal of like, okay, like I would love to fill this Discord with people, and not only just have like a community just around my music, but also a community with people that support me enough to like go mint something. And I almost set out like a goal essentially to onboard people to Web3 through that Discord, which has been somewhat successful. You know, like I'm not converting everybody. I'm not trying to shove it down their throats, but like, you know, just like, hey, I'm doing this, you know, if you're interested, kind of a thing. And, you know, I've had some success, which was tight.
Yeah. I want to also address another thing you said in your 2023 goals is just drop a lot of music, tokenize all that music. How do you think about cadence? Like dropping at a specific, like you're going to drop every single week, you're going to drop every other day, you're going to drop once a month. Do you have any mental model for thinking about cadence and strategy around that?
Like, yes and no. It's kind of in the same thing of like, if I box myself in and say I'm doing something every 2 weeks, it's like, well, what if I want to drop something else? Then it kind of like ruins my schedule. And I kind of hate that. But I think that like, I'm hoping for, you know, one mixed mastered song every month, which would be ideal. But I don't want to like set out and be like, yo, I'm doing this, and then A, not be able to follow through with it, or B, have so much music I'm sitting on that I want to drop more and it feel like I'm like, I don't know. I think that one thing that like could happen too is if I did say like, oh, I want to do a drop every month, I do that drop and I'm like, cool, I'm done for the month. I don't want to like put myself in that mindset. I don't want to like get near there. I kind of want to just like try to grind as much as I can. And, you know, whenever I have something ready, it's, you know, I'm hitting upload.
Right. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Look, I'm super excited to watch what 2023 has in store for you. I'll be collecting, I'll be listening. I keep saving your music, and I really enjoy the stuff that you're putting out. I guess the last thing I want to leave you off with, Peter, is if you have a few tips to share with artists coming into Web3, they probably look at you as somewhat of a leader, kind of like pioneering the space. You found your collector base, you've made money through tokenizing your songs. What are some tips you can provide beyond the ones that we already talked about?
Yeah, I think one would be think less about the money and more about community. And it sounds really like, I think like some artists might be like, well, why would I get into it? I'm not going to make money. Like, why would I put the time in? But there's like something so sick and like so special about having, like I said, like about like a group chat, just having your fans in a group chat, that if I say, hey, you know, I need people to pre-save this song, send it in the freaking chat, boom, I'm getting pre-saves from everybody. It's like a direct line to my fans, which is something that I think should be like one of your main goals with getting into this space, is because I think that it might be a little bit harder to get like kind of Web2 fans to get into a group chat. But with like Web3 fans, it's like everybody wants to like hop into a maybe not a Discord right now, but like into a Telegram chat with like some homies. And so it's definitely something to like focus on, is just building out your community and being like, hey, like it doesn't have to be only a Web3 money thing. It can literally be something that's going to also affect you with Web2 at the same time. And I think that's definitely something that I would say like for sure focus on, because you probably won't even see money immediately. Like you won't, you know, it's definitely like,
so how do you stay motivated? Like you gotta like, I feel like that's difficult, because at one point you need to, like on one end of the spectrum, you have to spend time, study the space, dedicate, even invest money, going, booking flights, hotels, going to conferences, kissing babies, shaking hands, just like you did. But on the other end, you have to go in with the openness of not making a buck and just like overloading your credit card and taking a loan with a high interest rate like you did, you know, and like having that pressure to figure it out. Like, and majority of people will probably not like go all the way to the finish line with this new field, right? Yeah. Only a select few will actually figure it out. I feel like it's like a big hurdle, because there's so many keywords, so many terms, so many new faces that you need to meet, a new culture that you need, a new sub-internet culture that you need to understand, like so many moving parts that majority of people will just get deterred. How do you even approach that?
I think one thing too that definitely, or I hope will like motivate some more people, is like getting into Web3 helped me out more on the Web2 side than if I just stuck on the Web2 side. Like I've met so many people through like After Party, where like the song I'm putting out in a month, like my mixing engineer and his brother were at an After Party event, and just, you know, I pulled up to the event as I do, and ended up like hitting it off with my engineer's brother, and he ended up producing a song with me. And it was like, it went from like Web3 event to like, oh, like, okay, this is actually helping me out just making music. And I think that there's so many people in this space that are so incredibly good at what they do. And that, I mean, it's such like a niche thing that it's like low-key very easy to kind of get into this like community if you just put in the time, and you might see a lot of like benefits just like hopping in, regardless if you make money or not. You're going to make some cool friends, cool connections. And yeah, I mean, that's definitely like huge motivator for like some of my other friends who have like onboarded into Web3, is like, it's not just about the money. It's not necessarily just about community. Like there's so many things that come with being in this space that I think you wouldn't expect, but you don't really know until you dive into it. So you kind of just gotta dive into it. But yeah, I mean, so many people out here trying to just like make money and get in and get out, and like there's so much more than that. As cheesy as it sounds, there's so much more than that.
Yeah. Who do you think is the most underrated music artist in the Web3 space right now?
Oh man. Is it bad if I say one of my homies? I have a friend who just dropped on Sound, and it's his first ever like music NFT drop or anything. Incredible kid. He's like one of the first people that I met when I first moved to LA, and he's the reason why I'm even decent at producing. He made me switch to freaking Ableton from Logic, and showed me the ropes, and he's honestly insane. Like I've known this dude for 3-4 years now, and almost every week he just sends me like 5 or 6 demos of just songs that he's like fully, like honestly not even demos, just like fully finished songs. His output is insane. I think that now with him getting into this space, it's like, dude, if this dude just keeps dropping music NFTs, in which he will, like there's no stopping him. He's got so much music.
Shout him out. What's his tag?
Ben Matthews, everybody.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, absolute legend. And yeah, he's very underrated in the sense that he just did his first drop. So we gotta hype him up and get him.
All right.
Get him out. So
Peter, this was great. Thank you for the tips. Thanks for the insights. I'm excited to see what 2023 has in store for you. Before I let you go, where can we find you? Where can we learn more? Shill it away.
Let's go. You can find me on Instagram at PJ Saputo, Spotify Peter Saputo, and Twitter Peter Saputo or PJ Saputo. And yeah, you'll see me. I'm everywhere. So
Let's go. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being a part of season 7. We'll see you next time.
Let's go. Thank you for having me.